Do you feel that the negotiators and the roads opposite us are taking into account what you are saying, the information that you are providing them about the changing weather systems and changing climate?
I guess the answer will be a mixed answer. Yes, to a certain extent, and we are certainly very encouraged by the fact that now there are explicit references to the need to prevent disaster, to have better prevention activities, because as you know, in many countries, in particular the least developed countries, natural disasters can be a major obstacle to development. We are reminded of that with the earthquake in Haiti and the drought in many African countries. So now there's an explicit reference to that, and we believe it's a step in the right direction. However, we should never be satisfied with, because we always need to go even further. We are also encouraged, and now I'm speaking also as the chair of the UN Water, the coordination of water activity in the UN system. There is a stronger reference to water issue. This is good. This is a step in the right direction, because water is also an essential element of sustainable development. It's a fundamental right of people. You cannot have life without water. And now there is a recognition of the need for everyone to have access to safe drinking water, to proper sanitation as well. And we are encouraged by that. It doesn't mean the problem is easy to solve. It's a huge challenge. All the organization, program of the United Nations are contributing to that. But I think now I can see that the recognition that this is an issue to be tackled is getting higher. So I'm encouraged by these developments.
Summits like this, particularly one which happened 20 years ago as well, always give us time to reflect on what has been achieved and what has not been achieved. 20 years ago, the world leaders firmly said we must take science into account when making decisions for the future. Do you feel that the last 20 years have been positive for world leaders listening to the scientists, and do you feel, not necessarily just yourself, but your fellow scientists, are you being listened to?
The answer is yes, there has been progress. However, this progress is not sufficient. And when it comes to climate issues, for example, the assessment by the IPCC are getting certainly a bigger recognition. There are still skeptics, but you can see that the scientific message is getting stronger with every IPCC report. The next report will be issued 2013-14, and we expect that it will go even further in giving decision makers with relevant information. So yes, there's been progress. However, it doesn't go as far as we would like things to go. We would like decision makers at all levels to take even more into account this information. But the challenge is also on our side, scientists, to provide information in a way which can be used by decision makers. And when it comes to the climate, we have launched now with all our partners of the UN system a major initiative which is called the development of a global framework for climate services. In other words, to provide decision makers from the top governments to the farmers, to the fishermen, information in a way they can use. So it's a huge challenge in front of us. We are tackling it. We are confident that you will see significant improvement over the next few years.
How hard is it for a world organization which you represent to make itself relevant to all of the 190 countries around the world? Because they each have different ways of thinking, they each have different relationships with scientists and perhaps different respects for scientists. How hard is it for you to get your message out to all those countries?
Well, it's never easy to get the message to different culture, However, the weather, the climate influences all countries of the planet, from the least developed to the most developed country. So, in a sense, we are in an area where all countries need to cooperate with each other. There is no way around it. No country can do it alone. Cooperation in this area is essential. The problem cannot be solved in isolation by different countries. It has to be solved collectively, and this is where the UN system collectively can bring this unique strength of getting all countries together to it's not easy, we know that. If it was easy, problem would be solved by now, but I think we are moving in the right direction.
You've made it clear that you believe climate change and concerns about climate should be at the heart of texts moving forward. Many commentators, one of whom British MP Zach Goldsmith, said that the climate change debate is killing the environmental movement because there is too much focus on perhaps tons of carbon. is there a balance to be had? Is there too much focus on climate change? Is there too little? Where do you see the debate at the moment?
I don't think there is too much weight on climate change. I would be tempted to say the opposite. There is not yet enough weight on climate change. You see, when you look at the future, for many decades, for many centuries, the way to make decisions was based on information of the past. Let me take one example. If you built a dam, normally the dam were designed based on statistics of the past. But now, because of climate change, the past is no longer a good enough indicator for the future. So we need to anticipate these changes, otherwise we shall end up in a situation which will be very, very difficult and costly to manage. So we need to take more into account the prediction, the scenario of what we anticipate. So I wish actually we take even more into account the climate change issue.
And a final point, going back to communication, which you raised earlier, there seems to be so much information out there. Just before COP17 in Durban, the IEA released a report, I think it was about extreme weather, the IPCC did the same, and yet we are still seeming to be in the same, stuck in the mud. Is there also the responsibility of scientists to make their communications more efficient, more effective and clearer, so that not just the people who have degrees and are called doctors and have masters can understand, but also the general public and people from all around the world?
Well, the simple answer is yes. Now, how to do it is not easy, because we have to get a very complicated scientific message in a very simplistic form, and by making it too simple, we should avoid the risk of distorting the message. So it is not easy, but one of the challenging issue is how to take uncertainties, probability into account in making decision. Because when you know things in a probabilistic way, it doesn't mean that it is ignorance. Actually, knowledge of uncertainty is knowledge. It is not ignorance. But that's a message which is not easy to get through in a proper way.